BYD and Geely have just faced off over the EV price war, over the car price war in China in 2025 at the Chongqing Forum, which is quite a surprise, I think, what's happening now. BYD and Great Wall Motors have been having this kind of wild public, very, very public spat. And now it's become BYD and Geely. It's almost like BYD are taking on everyone. Here are the details of this very public forum of what's being said here. This is kind of shocking to me. I've never seen anything like this before in China. And well, what will this result? What's going to happen as a result of this? Well, here's what I think. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. Now, guys, I will try to be objective here, but I have to say my treatment from Geely has been far superior to the way that BYD have treated me. And so there's no question, being a human being, that does have to affect you to some degree in how you perceive the situation. I'll try to be as purely objective and just report this as purely a news story, and then you can take from it what you will. Tensions flared, says Car News China and many mainstream media outlets at the 2025 China Auto Forum as senior executives from BYD, I should mention the CEO of BYD was not there, Geely and Great Wall Motors exchanged public criticisms of each other, underscoring the deepening divisions in China's electric vehicle industry. It's very cutthroat, and these companies are clearly doing everything they can to grow fast, and they are succeeding, particularly Geely and, of course, BYD. The confrontations came against a worsening price war and declining industry profit margins. Now, I should point out, Geely's profit margins tripled in the first quarter of this year, literally tripled. BYD's went up significantly as well. I don't know how they're doing this. It's quite an amazing that they're able to do this, considering the price of their car. Their prices of their cars have never been more affordable. BYD's general manager of branding and public relations, Li Yunfei, ignited the weekend's most talked about moment by condemning specific unnamed competitors for what he described as dirty tricks, smear campaigns, and underhanded tactics aimed at manipulating public opinion. Basically, the general manager of branding and public relations, Li Yunfei at BYD, is saying other car brands are targeting BYD along with a bunch of YouTubers. I think they're suing 30 different social media bloggers and YouTubers, whatever. They're suing a whole bunch of them. And they're saying, along with them, this is a coordinated campaign by other car companies, to attack BYD. I must say, my personal opinion on this is complete nonsense. I don't agree with this at all. I think that the general manager of branding and public relations is taking this the wrong way and making this into much more of a scene than it would have been if he hadn't have escalated this in this way. And this is actually not. This is quite common, unfortunately, in China. Unfortunately, quite often, Chinese companies will employ very, very, I personally think, the wrong-minded people. I've got to say this about XPeng as well. Public relations, they need to be careful about who they hire, because the people they're hiring are very defensive. If you say something, and even if it's not intended as an insult in any way, you're just asking a question, they can often take it the wrong way. And I've seen this myself personally. I've actually been involved in this, where I'm thinking, I didn't know, I asked you a question, I was actually giving you a compliment. You took it as an offense. And I think because there's a little bit of a language translation issue sometimes, and also sometimes the public relations managers at these companies don't understand the automotive industry. I'm sorry that they actually don't. You'll make a comment, and if they understood the actual context behind the comment, then there wouldn't be a problem. But because they don't watch YouTube videos like you guys do, they don't really understand the automotive industry fully, they actually take things as an attack when they're not intended that way. And I'm seeing this happening now more often. I think that really these car companies in China need to be very careful about who they're having representing them as their public relations managers, because these PR people are starting these wars, basically saying, you said this about me, when actually that wasn't the case. This was what could be happening in this situation. This marks a sharp departure, says Car News China, from BYD chairman Wang Shanfu's emotional 2023 appeal for unity with the phrase, "Together we are China's auto industry." And I think the CEO of BYD is a great leader. He's very, very composed, doesn't attack other car companies, But unfortunately, recently, people underneath him clearly are doing the opposite to that. Together we are China's auto industry, he said. 2 years later, that unity appears very fractured, says Car News China. At the same forum, Geely Holdings Senior Vice President Victor Young responded forcefully to Lee's remarks, accusing BYD of hypocrisy and suggesting that BYD's narrative was an attempt to mislead. Isn't this just the case of the thief crying thief? Young retorted that regulatory scrutiny should replace emotional appeals in settling disputes like Great Wall Motors' formal complaint over BYD's fuel tank design. Now, he's referencing what happened. You've probably seen these YouTube videos of these car fires in China, lots of them. And YouTubers have jumped on this to say, look, EVs are setting fire to themselves all over China. We told you they're terrible. Now, I've made several videos on this showing that they're not in fact EVs. Almost all the cars in these videos are actually plug-in hybrids. And this happened when there was an issue with the fuel tank design, which was basically causing some of these plug-in hybrids to set fire to themselves. As a result, it gave kind of the industry this bad impression. So Great Wall Motors was saying, we've got to fix this problem that has been created. And I think then, BYD took offense to that. That's my take on that. And my other take on this is the senior vice president of Geely. I've actually met him in person, and the guy doesn't speak great English, but not that that's a negative. He is incredibly good to speak to through a translator, but he'll ask you questions. Even if he's, I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody, but he asked me questions. He said, how can we improve this car? What's your take on the automotive industry? What do you think we're going to be in 2027? And he asked several people this question. People way below his standing, people that he doesn't need to ask their opinion. But this is the kind of guy, this is the kind of people that I think are working at the head in Geely. These are the kind of people leading this company where they're like, you know what, we want to know what you think. What's your opinion? We're not going to take offense. We want to know how you feel about this. And, that's what I'm seeing from Geely. I'm not seeing that from BYD. Neither is, I've got to say, neither are other Australian journalists. Now, I'm not in a boat by myself here. I'm basically going off comments, not just my own experience, but the experience from many other people in the automotive industry, media that I've spoken to. And I'm getting this from them without any prompting. They're offering this information without me even asking them about their experiences. So the clashes were not limited to BYD and Geely. Weeks earlier, Great Wall Motors chairman Wei Yunjun warned of a brewing crisis in the industry, likening it to a ticking time bomb. Huawei's Yu Chengdong also criticized rivals who succeed with a single product, prompting Xiaomi's Li Yun to counter online. To slander is to look up in awe. I've got to say Xiaomi is doing pretty damn well, and they do have a second product now. Soon they'll have a second car, so I don't see the point in attacking Xiaomi. These exchanges have crystallized into open factions within the car industry in China, with Chery taking a more moderate tone. Chery's executive vice president acknowledged intense competition, but argued that industry challenges could drive long-term health if car makers focused on core capabilities. I think basically Chery, they're saying, yeah, we're discounting cars too much. It's gone a bit too far. That's my take. Li Yunfei defended BYD's restraint in not naming competitors directly. In other words, he's saying, oh, we're taking the high road here because we know which competitors are slandering us. I haven't heard of this. I don't think this is even true. We know which one of you are doing this. We're going to take the high road and not tell everyone who you are, citing an internal directive from Wang Shanfu, the CEO, not to engage in public mudslinging. But he is engaging in it, so I don't think he's listened to his CEO. Still, he described some industry peers as stupid and malicious and called for government authorities to step in against what he described as coordinated misinformation campaigns. Victor Young dismissed the moral posturing, warning that terms like non-cooperative and bad actors are no substitute for the rule of law. Industry leaders echoed Young's sentiments. GAC Aon's deputy general manager described Young as a spokesperson for the industry. At the same time, Chery's chairman, Zhang Xinghai, warned that the competitive environment had become unstable with reduced profits and investment in innovation. Executives from Chang'an and Chery similarly called for a more principled approach to competition. Once again, they're saying, let's not go too insane with all this price discounting. It's a race to the bottom and it's not helping anyone. The underlying cause of the tension is the intensifying price war, says Car News China. And really, ultimately, I think it's a perception from automakers in China and from the government that the price war has gone too far. According to the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade's auto branch, more than 200 models saw price cuts in 2023. In the first 4 months of 2025 alone, more than 60 models have followed suit. And we're not just talking about price cuts, we're talking about price cuts on top of price cuts on top of price cuts. The situation peaked in May when over 100 models were discounted from top brands. Profit margins in the sector have collapsed, dropping to just 3.9% in Q1 2025 compared to 9% in 2014. The result, an increasingly toxic market in which volume growth masks eroding financial health. On May 31, the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers, essentially the government, released a statement condemning predatory pricing practices, specifically targeting sales below cost to eliminate competition. And it was clear, considering the timing, the fact that BYD only a few days before had discounted its cars by 10 to 34%, it was targeting one company. Days later, the China Automobile Dealers Chamber of Commerce issued a separate warning against pressuring dealers with unrealistic sales targets, calling such targets unsustainable. We know what they're referencing here. These moves reflect a broader shift from moral appeals to regulator enforcement. Industry observers note that as EV penetration exceeds 40%, in fact it's above 50% now, the Chinese auto sector collides with scale-driven growth limits. Once shielded by state support and high margins, manufacturers are now caught between cutting prices to stay competitive and investing heavily in advanced technology such as autonomous driving, solid-state batteries, and advanced electric car platforms. The fallout, though, is visible. Tesla, once dominant in Europe, Car News China says, saw its Q1 2025 sales plunge 36% year on year to just 53,000 units, with countries like Germany and France experiencing over 60% drops. Now, I don't agree with Car News China here about the Germany and France call. I think that's more politically related and also due to the fact that the new Model Y was not available at the time for most of that time. But I do agree with what's happening to Tesla in China. It's what's happening to everyone in China that is not one of these new fast-growing Chinese EV brands or Chinese car companies, which is they are getting out-innovated. This is an objective fact. Tesla is definitely ahead of everyone. But when it comes to EV technology in general, in terms of charging speed, range, and those kinds of real hardware features, it's clear that Tesla has been well and truly surpassed by these Chinese automakers. And as a result, it is affecting their sales. It's affecting Great Wall Motors. I should say it's affecting General Motors. It's affecting the Volkswagen Group. It's affecting Mercedes-Benz. It's affecting Audi. It's affecting all of these brands, Japanese car brands, Toyota even, their sales have gone down. Nissan sales have gone down. And as a result, profitability of these legacy automakers has also dropped. It's not just Chinese car makers whose profitability is down. The Volkswagen Group profit down to 6.5% from 18% only a few years ago. As the EV game enters its mid-phase, we're getting to that point, we're well and truly past that pivot point, getting to that point that we're looking at mass manufacturing of EVs, but all players are doubling down. The cost of staying at the table rises when the amount of room for error actually shrinks. So what this means is if you bring out a product and the market doesn't like it, it doesn't work, well, very big risk that your company could go bankrupt. Just a few cars that don't go well in the market, you could be in severe financial trouble. Whether the forum's fiery exchanges between these car companies, which I'm, to be honest, quite shocked at, actually ignite some sort of additional price war, which could even happen, I don't know. But here's the thing. The Chinese government is saying, we don't want this. And the Chinese government does, and regional, local governments do provide a lot of funding to these car companies. That's a big part of what happens in China and also happens in other countries around the world. Don't get me wrong, it's not just China. I've said that hundreds of times, so please don't email me about that issue. But you got to remember, if they're getting funding from the government, they want to make sure that continues. So I think it's in their interest, pretty much most of these companies, to actually kind of make peace and not continue driving prices to the bottom. One thing is clear, says Car News China. the age of unity in China's auto industry has given way to a fight for survival. The CEO of XPeng says that there will only be 5 to 7 car makers left within the next 10 years. The question is, which ones will still be there? What's your thoughts? Let me know how you feel about this in the comments. Thanks for watching.